So, what would you say are the key benefits and challenges solved by Altru Connect?
The biggest one for us was data entry. It just takes all of that out, and because we don't have to do all the data entry, we can do it more frequently. So we're getting all of that financial data into Financial Edge more quickly. I've been posting weekly, whereas before I was only posting at the end of the month. And also, because of that timeliness, it helps us figure problems out when they happen rather than a few weeks later. So the saving time with data entry, saving time in problem solving are probably the two biggest. But it is also the consistency because everything always looks the same. Everything always goes to the same places. And it just takes off so much of that manual work that we were doing before.
What are some key ways that Altru Connect has streamlined your processes?
So much time savings and so much paper savings also because everything is just right there in the moment and we don't have to go back and do the research. Everything is still fresh in everyone's mind.
Can you talk about the level of integration that Altru Connect provides between Altru and Financial Edge NXT?
Designations from our Altru database, and then it's automatically linking it to the proper account coding in Financial Edge.
You mentioned the integration Altru Connect provides between Altru and Financial Edge NXT. Can you describe how easy it is to maintain the designation mappings in Altru Connect?
Oh, sure. So my experience using the end product has been that it's pretty seamless. Once we have all of our mapping set up, it does its thing. It tells me when something isn't working, and I enter the account coding, the right mapping, and we just move on from there. So it's really been just pretty easy.
Could you describe how your mapping process for your general ledger works?
Each designation in Altru, we're able to give default mappings in, or default account coding, I guess, for each category of transaction, and then we can kind of adjust those defaults as needed for specific designations, so that when they come over to Financial Edge, they're already where they belong.
Can you describe the posting process?
So we go in to the posting screen and we choose the dates that we want to post on. And then once we load the transactions, we're able to validate, and it will tell us if anything isn't mapped already or if anything isn't going to come over to Financial Edge. Once we have everything set up, that doesn't really happen unless a new designation is created. But once we have all of that, we can preview the journal. Did I skip a step? Yeah, preview the journal entry, and it's going to show us what it will look like once it is created as a journal entry in Financial Edge. So it'll give us all the debits, all the credits, and we can give it a quick look over and see if anything is out of place. We can also look at the total revenue report from Altru and compare that number to what we're seeing in that preview journal entry. And this is really helpful because if there is anything that looks a little like we're not sure what it is, we can dig into it and it'll take us to the original entry in Altru, so we can get more information from there.
Does Altru Connect allow you to record key characteristics of Altru transactions, such as the initiative that generated the Altru transaction, when posting into Financial Edge NXT?
We have T codes here, we call them initiatives, and we're able to set a default initiative for each designation, and we're able to incorporate all of our project codes as well, so that when the information is pulled from Altru, it just goes right where it belongs in Financial Edge. And we obviously we do have to think about it, but not as much as we were before.
So what other benefits did you realize when implementing Altru Connect?
We've actually learned a lot about our database and the way we have things set up by going through this process. So that's been very helpful.
What additional features of Altru Connect provide ways to reconcile and proof Altru transactions?
Each transaction that gets pulled over from Altru has the revenue ID associated with it, and that is a hyperlink. So if there's anything that looks a little out of place, we can drill down into Altru directly to that revenue ID, that revenue entry, and see what's going on with it. So if maybe something got routed incorrectly in Altru, we can get into that revenue record and see what's going on and be sure we make the proper correction before bringing it over into our financial database.
Are there proof reports available in Altru Connect?
Yeah, it's that total revenue report that it links to, and that's just so that we can see the information that Altru Connect is pulling from Altru is the same information that comes up in the total revenue report for that time period. So it's a nice check that we have.
So you seem to be a fan of the reporting in Altru Connect. Would you please elaborate on that?
Total revenue report in Altru Connect more than the one in Altru. It's easier to navigate and it's easier to get into records than the one that Altru provides.
What has been your experience working with Capital Business Solutions?
Oh, it's been great. It's been very easy. Robbie and Peter have been incredibly patient with me, and they're usually a step ahead also.
What type of Financial Edge NXT training has Capital Business Solutions provided, and how's it gone?
They've been really wonderful. We had our first training for our view-only users, which was a great walkthrough of all the features that the view-only group is able to see and access in NXT. So we looked at the dashboards, which we hadn't really been utilizing beforehand. And I think that's going to be a great resource for some of those folks, and also just showing them how to see different vendor information, different payment information, and just kind of get that overall of what we do in Financial Edge and how it can help them and help them answer their own questions, which is a beautiful thing.
You mentioned the view-only user training. Can you elaborate more on how that's been beneficial?
So the view-only training went really well. We learned more about security groups, which we're definitely not utilizing as much as we could be. So I think pairing that with the view-only access, we're going to be able to use NXT in a more effective way than we were before. So we'll get more users in there and they'll have more specialized views, is what I'm envisioning now anyways. But just yesterday we had a training session that went over all of accounts payable. And we had been in NXT a little bit, but it really reinforced some of the things that we were already doing and showed us how we can use like 1099 vendors more effectively and things like that. It also, Jason showed us how we can link our bank feeds and our credit card feeds to our registers there, which we hadn't been doing, and that's going to be a huge time saver as well. But we just learned so much, and it was a long session, but it was just chock full of good information and definitely things that we can implement now to make the end of the year go a little bit more smoothly. And again, saving time, going more quickly, and not living in Excel as much as we are for some of our reconciliations.